I've been playing Imani for a few days now, and while I've been messing around with her, I've been hearing several different opinions from the community about her. Like with every new character, I've heard a lot of Imani is OP or Imani is weak, and surprisingly enough, this time around, both are true. Imani is by far one of the most interesting character designs we have ever seen in Paladins. A very unique character that's currently a very good concept, but suffers from poor execution, at least right out of the gate. There is still plenty of time to polish up that execution and bring out Imani's full potential. Let's take a look at Imani's core mechanic, stance swapping. Currently, there is absolutely no real reason to ever swap from the ice stance to the fire stance, and that's for two reasons. One being the ice stance is so incredibly powerful, and another being that the fire stance is so incredibly weak. Look at the ice stance, it has roughly the same DPS as Cassie, both do 650 a hit, except Imani fires 0.05 seconds slower. Not that big of a difference, I know. On top of that, the ice attacks slow the target. It may not be for very long, but if they're landing consistent hits, you tend to notice it. Also, when you fill up your mana, you fire off your next ice attack instantly. After 3 hits, you fill up your mana, so your 4th hit will fire 2 attacks off at about the same time, allowing you to do a 1300 burst in less than a second. Think about that, about every 2 or 3 seconds you're doing a 1300 burst. I do also want to point out that these ice attacks have infinite range. That's not even the end of it though, because her best talent by far right now is splitting ice, and this makes it so if you land an attack, it can bounce to one additional enemy for 400 damage. The additional enemy does not appear to be slowed by this bouncing attack, however. All of this put together makes for a very powerful and relatively easy method of putting out massive overall damage with just your primary attack. We haven't even taken the ice ability into account yet. Her ice stance right click is Frost Bomb, and this allows you to do a 800 damage AoE attack that also roots anyone hit by it for 1.5 seconds. The AoE damage itself isn't the problem with this, it's more of the root. The root pairs so well with splitting ice. Now to be clear, I don't think the problem is actually with the root itself, despite how annoying roots are. The combo is really powerful, but I do blame the primary and talent more than the root. The only downside with the ice stance is that the projectiles come out of the left and the right hands instead of the middle of the screen, so it's very easy for them to clip against walls when you think they wouldn't. Outside of that though, this has to be the most broken primary weapon I have ever seen in Paladins, with only old royal subjects being able to topple it. The ice stance primary and the ice talent need to be brought down because the ice stance greatly outdoes the fire stance. For one, I'd say give the ice attacks a max range. The same as Cassie or even a bit lower would probably do it. I also don't think the slow really needs to be there, and as for the ice talent, the damage of the bounce should probably be lowered a bit. Also, of course, make it so the projectiles come out of the middle of the screen to make the weapon feel better and get rid of that clipping. Now the ice stance doesn't only outdo the fire stance because it's so powerful, the fire stance is also very weak. The primary attack on it barely gives you any mana even if you constantly land full attacks. I get that they want to encourage stance swapping, but hitting 9 or 10 full fire blasts to fill up your mana bar is a bit much. Also, the draw time is far too slow. It's slower than Shaolin's, and Shaolin's base DPS being pretty weak is a big reason why he's not seen all that much. It's only about 750 a second, and that's pretty low for a damage character. But he can either have a talent to make him draw faster or a talent to give him a 1300 explosive arrow, allowing him to 2-hit most squishies. Imani doesn't have any of that. Her projectile even travels slower than Shaw's. So what needs to be done is her fire primary needs to be brought up to at least Shaolin's level, both the draw time and the projectile speed. This primary also has unlimited range, and I'd say keep it like that on this one. Let this be the long range option for her. I do also want to point out that this stance also doesn't fire the attacks from the middle of the screen, so fix that here too. As for her fire stance right click, it's a lot like planted, except it requires more consistent tracking. I don't think it's that bad of an ability. It's situational for sure, but it can pump out a lot of DPS. It can nearly kill Fernando by itself. Its only real problem is that it has a bug where it does no damage, and this bug happens quite often, so that needs to be fixed. Outside of her stances, there's her movement ability, and I have to say this ability is really bad. You have to run points in the card that increases its speed for it to be useful because it's so slow at base. Now, I'm a firm believer that every ability should be useful at its base and on its own. Having a card that makes it better doesn't excuse that. So the speed of her glide needs to be buffed up by at least 20%. Then there is her ultimate. The ultimate has made a ton of buzz in the community. A lot of people say it's broken, and a lot of people even go so far to say as it is the best ultimate in the game. Me personally, I wouldn't go that far at all. The complaints I hear about it are mainly that it does too much damage and can wipe a team too easily. All of the clips I've seen of people wiping teams with it and all of the times I've done it personally, there's a common factor. Either the enemy is ignoring it the entire time, or the enemy ignores it until it's in range of them, and at that point, it's too late. If this ultimate gets to you, it will kill you. It can kill every squishy in about a second, every tank in about 2. The damage on it is very high, and for good reason. On most maps, it shouldn't even be able to get to your team before it dies. The dragon is so massive, and its health isn't all that high. It's only 7,500. Koa in his ultimate has 10,000 and he's much smaller, but if enemies focus him, he melts. The same thing goes for the dragon, except it's even easier to melt him because again, less health and a way bigger hitbox. When you hear the dragon ult call out, you and your team need to back up and shift priorities to taking that thing down. It doesn't even take the whole team, it only takes 2 people most of the time depending on the characters at your disposal. Me as a Moji and a Furia were able to take it down on Bright Marsh just by playing angles it couldn't hit us easily at and team shotting it. There was another time that I 1v1 the dragon as Cat Burglar Maeve, getting it low from a distance, baiting it indoors with me and hiding in its massive hitbox so it couldn't hit me, making it easy to finish off. At the most, the dragon should only be able to zone your team out for a bit while you kill it. Now, this is on most maps. There are some maps where the dragon is very powerful. Ice Mines, for example. The point is very small and very enclosed. Once the dragon is out, it can be difficult to deal with fast enough before it starts to pick up kills. Warder's Gate is another one because there are no real lines of sight, at least vertically. It's all blocked by buildings or terrain. On most of the other maps though, it's very easy to see it coming and it's very easy to melt it. It's all about putting in the effort to melt it as a team and not running away or ignoring it completely. I feel like it's going to be a very powerful ult in lower level games because that's exactly what people are going to do. I do also want to point out that some characters can take on the dragon by themselves. Some take longer than others to kill it, and some can kill it by themselves quickly and with ease. Debilitate Sky takes off most of its health by herself, making it very easy for a team to finish it off. Big Game Cassie takes on the dragon at range by herself. Drogos can counter-ult the dragon, and the dragon's fire by itself can't kill him fast enough to stop him from landing the punch. However, Drogos will be low enough that he'll likely die right after, unless he gets full healed because the dragon doesn't apply caught. Tyra ult also allows her to melt the dragon by herself, especially since it can be marked by her. If the dragon has already taken damage, Lexalt and Maeve's Street Justice can in fact execute it. Now, this isn't really damage or anything, but Grover ult can out-heal the dragon damage, making it easy for your team to live through it and burst it down together. Furia's Solar Blessing also has the same effect. The other day I was on Ashe, and my buddies were on Makoa and Furia, and us 3 were able to kill the dragon before the beam ended multiple times, without any help whatsoever from our 2 DPS characters. There is also another way to counter the dragon, and that's by killing Imani herself. Imani is completely vulnerable while the dragon is out, and on most maps a flanker, or any character really, flankers are probably the easiest, can take a route away from the dragon to get to Imani and kill her. When Imani dies, the dragon disappears. Most of the time Imani is unprotected, and if her team protects her, well, that makes it easier for your team to team shot the dragon since they have less things to worry about since the enemy is giving a lot of resources to their Imani. Imani can see when she's taking damage and can cancel her ultimate, but basically every character can kill her before the game lets the player retake control of her. I've also heard that Bulldozer allows you to kill Imani faster when her dragon is out. I guess they coded her as becoming a deployable since the dragon becomes the player. It's not practical to buy Bulldozer for that purpose at all, but I thought it was funny and wanted to share. Now to be clear, what I'm saying is most of the time the ultimate is easy to counter. However, I'm not saying it's completely balanced because there are some circumstances where it is very strong. Like I said, on some of those smaller maps where it doesn't have to go very far, it can be a force of nature. It's also incredibly good at zoning. It's a very good zoning alt. I don't mean zoning alt like Skies where it locks off a small zone for a few seconds. No, I mean real, actual zoning. Like when you have control of the point and your team goes out to dismount the enemy and hold them back while the healer caps. That kind of zoning. When you get point control, sit on the point and send out your dragon. This allows your healer to go up with the rest of your team and zone while you are still able to zone yourself. The enemy is not going to attempt to run past your dragon, and they won't be able to really fight your teammates while it's out. You don't even have to damage the enemy. They'll dismount themselves to attack the dragon, and you can just keep the dragon behind cover and use its presence to keep them back most of the time. And if they get ballsy and try to push up, you can melt them. The duration of the dragon is a long time. I think it lasts 20 seconds. So you can easily use that time to guarantee a point cap, and honestly that's where most of the dragon's strength comes from, cause you can use it like that on any map. So since the dragon can more often than not be easily countered, I don't think it needs any real hard nerfs or anything. However, it does need some changes without a doubt. First, the alt callout. It's the same alt callout whether it's friendly or an enemy. This is also a big problem I have with Talus's Oni skin. He has the same yell no matter whose side he's on. There needs to be two alt callouts. One of them can be as simple as the dragon roaring, so you can get that immediate reaction of, okay, that's an enemy dragon, we need to be ready to take this thing down. Also, the dragon makes absolutely no noise when it's flying around. Drogos makes a ton of noise and he's far less lethal and a lot smaller. So the giant dragon flapping his massive wings should in theory make some noise. Only the enemy really needs to be able to hear the noise. There's no real point in letting the friendlies hear it. All that really does is add audio clutter. I hear a lot of friendly characters making a lot of noise by walking behind me, and it's a bit trippy. The only other thing would be how fast you can get the dragon. I don't know if this is a problem with the alt charge specifically, or with the fact that the Ice Stance primary puts out a ton of damage, but you get the alt way too fast, and in turn way too often. If nerfing the Ice Stance is what brings this down, so be it. If that's not enough, hit the alt charge rate too. I don't think anything else really needs to be done to the dragon. I feel like once the community gets used to it and realizes they need to prioritize it, then it'll feel way less overwhelming. I do see them nerfing the damage of it a bit to make it easier on the lower levels of the game though, and hey, I don't think it'll be the worst thing in the world or anything. Outside of all that, the only other things that Imani really needs done to her are bug fixes. Imani is Terminus level buggy right now. I don't know all the bugs off the top of my head, but there are, of course, the Inferno Cannon no-reg bug. There's also the Frost Glide Ice Block getting stuck to your character. The biggest bug has to be the one where Imani is unable to attack in any stances or even do anything at all in some severe cases. The other day, one of my teammates wasn't able to do anything but move with the character for the last half of the game. It's pretty obvious that something so severe absolutely needs to be fixed before the update goes live. I think once all this is done to Imani, the character will be really solid and really balanced. It'll also allow her skill gap to come out, because right now it's pretty non-existent since you're only using one stance, which, like I said, is currently really easy to use and put out a lot of damage with. Once there's a reason to swap stances, you'll really start to see what a skilled Imani player can pull off, and I can't wait. I'm liking the character so far, I can only imagine how much I'll like her when I'm able to tap into her full potential. Anyway, what do you guys think about Imani? What would you like done to the character to put her in a better spot? Let me know in the comments below, and that's pretty much it guys. I want to thank you all for watching, I very much appreciate it, and I'm gonna see you guys later. Bye!